Hey, my name is ShawNshawN and I sell painting on eBay and my website, ShawNshawN.co. Today we're going to review Train to Busan. So this is a Korean zombie flick. The director is Sang Ho-hoon. The time is 1 hour 58 minutes. Sorry about the pronunciation. Actors are Yu Gong, plays kind of this young father, Seok Woo, who's also trades mutual funds, so kind of high up institutional banker. Yoo Mi Young plays Seong Ki-young. She's a young pregnant worker mother who's married to this kind of working guy. Her husband is Dong Seok Mao, played Sang Hwa. So he's a working everyday man, kind of bitter at the world, jealous of the riches of the wealthy. Seong Kim is Suan, who is the kid of the working father who's working crazy hours at this institutional trading bank. Yoo Sung Kim is Young Suk, top executive, kind of CEO type, sacrificing on kind of your classic villain. So the story is this young father, Seok Woo, he runs this mutual trading fund, and all of a sudden he gets news like there's this weird crisis in the market, and so he tells like his young executives, hey, just sell what we have, sell everything. And he's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, sell it all. And then he goes home. His daughter's kind of upset with him because his grandma took her to a play where she was in the play, but the father didn't make it. So it's kind of this classical father working too many hours, not seeing his daughter. So the daughter's all disappointed, can't even do the song she was going to sing, kind of a musical. So the father's feeling guilty for working hours, but he's making a good life for his daughter. So this classical kind of work versus raising your kids kind of balanced. It's kind of out of proportion in, say, Korea, because people work, to death, kind of like the same with the Japanese model. America worked pretty hard as well, but these guys work even crazier hours. So he decides, the daughter asks, hey, I want to go see my mom. I want to see my mom. It's my birthday. He accidentally buys her the Wii a second time in a row. He's totally clueless what his daughter likes for her birthday. So he's like, fine, we'll go to take her to see your mom. And his mom lives down south, and they have split, obviously, so it's a divorced parent. And the grandma's kind of lecturing him, you should get back together with your wife. He's like, yeah, whatever. But he's very focused in on his business, so he's not really focused in on other people like his wife. And that's kind of why the relationship fell apart. And so Busan's kind of, for South Korea, it's in the south, so Seoul's kind of the capital where all the work is done, really serious, execs are up there. And Busan's kind of a beach town, it's on the south, as well as it's a trading town with Japan, so it's kind of becomes kind of the symbolic town of last refuge in Korea as the whole country slowly gets infected. So as he goes on this train ride, they get into the first train station, and they see, oh man, there's infected people out there. And then one of them gets inside, infects about half the train. They're trying to keep everyone back. And so it's this ongoing battle between the infected on the train and the healthy people, like who's going to survive. The healthy get split on two sides of the train as well. And they go into a couple stations, and then they have to change trains, and then they have to change a train again. So there's like these 3 different changes. Obviously zombies attack each time. So it's this kind of classical zombie. They're being chased the whole time, and this train serves as a great symbolism of going from the busy north to escape to the south, where hopefully there's no infected because it's healthier, because it's on the beach, goal set. So I think, that's a classic setup for a zombie film. You always go from kind of the urban city to some perfect place in an island or some off scene to the idyllic world, back to the rural setting where it's safe. So that's very typical of zombies, because obviously infection rates are higher in big cities, so it's kind of symbolism of the city being sick itself versus the countryside being the healthier way where you should really be raising your kids. I mean, it is a little bit of a challenge, I think, to keep it exciting because it is a train. Everyone knows in a train it's just one long route, but because the passengers split on both sides, then you kind of have this play and they have to work their way through the zombies to save someone. So they make it interesting on the train ride itself. Obviously the sets are smaller because they're just on a train the whole time. But it is pretty cool because the train pulls into the station, it's red and the eyes are red, and you're like, ooh, this is kind of interesting. What train has red eyes? So it's kind of symbolism, something's already off. And yeah, I kind of like that. The really cool part about the story is they have these nice classical stereotypes or architect types, I would say, in the story. So kind of very symbolic of society itself. So you have the great villain Young Suk, who's kind of the CEO that sacrifices all his people below him for himself to get ahead. And so on the train, he's doing the same thing. He's kind of organizing the train to wherever he's with the healthy people, sacrifice the rest no matter what. He switches the sides and he gets trapped, and he's like, oh, sacrifice those people, no problem. So he's a self-serving guy, you know, and that's kind of like seen as kind of the evil sponge of Korean society. The CEO is driving these people to work crazy hours just to get ahead in life, right? Then you also have young Goon is kind of symbolic of traitors, kind of sponging off the rest of society, a leech of society, so to say, almost seen as like a zombie of the real world. But now it's like, you know, in the zombie world, is he really going to be a good guy or not? So he's kind of morally ambivalent. You don't know if he's going to be good. And you kind of see the character art for his thing from, you know, trading doesn't matter what happens to everyone else to kind of a nice kind of family guy. So he's kind of has that nice character arc, as well as you have these two sisters who are kind of grandma age, and they're like really tight in bonds, and they get split on the train. They think one's going to die, and then they almost get reunited, and then one gets infected. And so one's just like, ah, well, if my sister's going to die, then everyone can die. So just totally selfish, terrible things. You have this young pregnant woman, and so obviously it gets down to like a very few people at the end, and you have a young couple as well. There's I think it's a baseball team, and there's a young girl on there who's a cheerleader, and she fell in love with a young kid, and so you think they're gonna survive, and then, you know, the story goes how it goes, right? But it's really cute because she's hitting on him and asking him, hey, you should go on a date, and he's like, oh, I don't know, I don't really know if I like you, kind of thing. And it's interesting because you see the group dynamics of the Korean culture to, you know, ostracize the leader for being kind of an SOB, self-serving, because the modern leaders aren't really looking after their people. The trading company is kind of a sponge on society. It's not really seen as a noble career goal. Obviously makes a lot of money, so it's kind of like this weird, it's a take on how modern society isn't living up to the medieval kind of values, I would say, of Korea itself. So there's a lot of kind of nice society, you know, overlays in these type of archetypes, I would say, in this story. You know, I think the only changes I would make is, one change was the music is a little bit, it's very Korean versus kind of a Western style, which makes sense as a Korean film. But they had some creepy music, and it was kind of corny. It didn't come off as kind of super, you could tell they're being creepy, but it wasn't creepy from a Western sensibility. The one that kind of fell flat for me was, I think they did this kind of sad scene where this was really tragic. You know, obviously there's going to be a lot of tragical thing, and there's a big plot twist, and they play kind of this piano music. And obviously in Asian society, it's very seen as teach your kids how to play the piano. It's seen as like high class, right? It doesn't really resonate with Western audiences, say, you know, Western audiences maybe push their kids to musical instruments, but there's no preference to which instrument, right? It could be guitar, saxophone, piano, so it doesn't have this kind of Asian thing for the piano. So that kind of comes off really kind of silly. They did have a really nice twist in the end. Some of the people that you think will make it to the end don't make it to the end, so it's really like, man, that's really dramatic, right? But I mean, it's a zombie film, so you know, every zombie film, it's like almost everyone gets wiped out except for a few people, right? So you have kind of those classical elements to a zombie film. I thought it was pretty good. There was also a scene which I really liked was they kind of have a symbolic attack in the sense that the zombies come, they hit a window, and the window's kind of papered over, but you see the violence behind the window, but it's very blurry, so you don't really know what's happening, and that's kind of scarier than actually showing it, so that's a really nice scene. Pretty good color grading too, so for this film I think I'd recommend. It's pretty fun. If you'd like to see more, you can subscribe below, and I'll see you in the next movie review. Thanks for watching, guys.